Vic Mignogna, since the beginning of my vlogs, people have been saying, do Vic Mignogna, do Vic. And I said, Nick Recchietta is doing it so well already and so thoroughly, and he's getting the depositions. I want to have nothing to add to this. What's going on with Vic? From the beginning to present.
So the Vic is a voiceover artist. He's most notable for doing Brody from Dragon Ball. And he was essentially accused by some of his co-workers at Funimation for engaging in misconduct of potentially sexual nature. Some of this misconduct allegation I thought was super weak sauce and didn't amount to anything. And I was amazed that they brought it up. But anyway, the allegation from Vic's side was twofold: defamation for making these allegations public, and for not making it clear. When Funimation fired him, they said, we essentially, I'm going to paraphrase this, but said, we don't tolerate people who engage in misconduct of whatever they said. And then in a separate tweet said, and we have fired Vic. So you could read the two together as saying that Vic had done those things. So there was a defamation argument. Then there was the tortious interference argument, where these people who had worked with Vic and their fiance, in the case of Monica, I believe it was, called various conventions that Vic was scheduled or thought to appear at, said, don't let him appear because of all the bad things he did, and his contracts fell apart. So it was defamation, tortious interference with existing contracts, tortious interference with prospective contracts. These were the causes of action. This was brought in Texas. Texas has an anti-SLAPP, which is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. It's called the Texas Citizens Protection Act in Texas, which I'll have to learn about soon because I'm soon going to become a member of the Texas Bar. Anyways, so they filed this and they won it, and I read the original filing, I read the response, I read the TCPA notice, I read that response. What's the
TCPA notice?
The anti-SLAPP.
Okay.
It's called TCPA in Texas, Texas Citizens Protection Act. And I read basically the dismissal hearing where the attorneys talked. And my overall impression is that the attorney who filed it flubbed the case. He filed a bare bones notice pleading. It appeared to me, at least, that he thought that he was going to be able to supplement on the back end. It appeared to me that he got surprised by the TCPA that put in place a discovery freeze, so he couldn't do what he thought he was going to be able to do. And it appeared to me at oral argument that he didn't know what he was arguing, and the judge was getting increasingly frustrated with him and basically gave up patience and ruled against him because he didn't like him anymore. And I don't think he's going to win his appeal. That is my summary of what I think happened.
Okay, I'm going to have questions to you right after I address these super chats. Can you plead insanity to a copy strike? Okay, Real Bambuga, thank you very much.
Same problem. Who knows?
Okay, and we got Real Bambuga, Viva Frei, Uncivil Law, Nate Brody. Can we get a live stream through a breathalyzer test? I believe I answered in the comment section. I don't know what Nate's drinking, but the answer is going to be no for me. And
yeah, water.
That's water in Russia is vodka.
And
then we got very interesting discussion. Ted Park, thank you guys all very much for the super chat.
This is 55% not alcohol.
Mine is 58% non-alcohol. Okay, so hold on one second. So Vic Mignogna is sorry, I just hit my mic. Vic is suing. Vic is suing for wrongful termination, defamation,
tortious interference. Yes.
Who files the SLAPP?
The other side did. Funimation and Monica and whatever else the name was.
A SLAPP suit, the strategic lawsuit against public participation, alleging what?
Alleging essentially that Vic is just trying to silence valid free speech. That the speech, that what they said was completely valid, and this is merely a suit designed to harass rather than seek a valid legal claim.
Okay, I'm going to ask some questions. They may be stupid, they may not be stupid. I thought this SLAPP was a defense to a lawsuit. Let me rephrase. Okay, no, because I'm thinking the SLAPP is a lawsuit which is intended to prevent someone from doing something proactive as opposed to availing someone to their rights. Why would it be a SLAPP? Why would it be a SLAPP to dismiss and not just a motion to dismiss?
Well, okay. Sometimes from the defense's perspective, you call it an anti-SLAPP because sometimes you would call what the plaintiff did SLAPP.
Okay.
So the plaintiff is filing the SLAPP. The plaintiff is filing a strategic lawsuit against public participation. So sometimes you would, from the defense's point of view, call it anti-SLAPP for that reason. But sometimes I mix the terms when I'm not being precise. But the reason is because this has been a balance that has been struck by different states in different ways. Traditionally, all you would have is the motion to dismiss. The problem is that lawsuits, as I'm sure you're well aware, can be quite expensive. And so even if you can win at a motion to dismiss or motion of summary judgment, depending on what that is, you're looking at tens of thousands to potentially six figures, even if you're going to win that. And so the idea was, we as Americans value freedom of speech. We think it's a paramount value. And so we're going to create a special rule for free speech based issues so that you can get out of this if it's valid free speech with the bare minimum of cost. So you don't have to worry about being forced to settle because of a bogus complaint just because you don't have money. We're going to give you a remedy to short circuit the whole thing, so that if what they're trying to do, if it's Bob Murray, a la Cole, a la John Oliver, for example, who's suing, and John Oliver saying, well, I'm just criticizing you because you're a jerk, we want free speech to exist. So the motion to dismiss was not considered sufficient to protect the interests of free speech. So we created a whole new thing in some states to create this plus. So that's one way of thinking about it.
Okay, and it's very interesting. We got Al Dente says, I have worked with Vic as a convention staffer. He is a broken stare and had been banned from conventions and even entire states. We had been silenced. Yeah, but that's the thing. This termination and defamation doesn't seem like a free speech issue. It seems like especially the tortious interference is not free speech. It's contractual and not. Okay, I mean, I don't understand how the SLAPP even figures into that, but I don't know how broadly the SLAPP statutes have been applied in the states.
Well, they're state specific. So every state that has one, they only exist as a creature of state law. Okay. So there's no federal anti-SLAPP yet, and there probably needs to be one because there's disputes right now as to whether or not they can exist in federal courts when they exist in state courts. So there's a whole dispute on that issue. But like Texas is considered one of the strongest in this. So Texas's version of it is very favorable to free speech. We love free speech. We want free speech. And so we're going to look very critically at any lawsuit for defamation in particular, because we want free speech to exist. We want you to express your mind and not fear this repercussion. So we're going to create a whole new avenue for you to crush the people who are trying to oppress your free speech.
Yeah, by oppressing their free speach. I mean, I'm going to get to that in 1 second. That something pisses me off there. Hold on. Don't do drugs, Nuvi. Don't tell me what to do. Okay, I'm joking. Thank you. Thank you very much for the super chat. Bambuga, come on, admit it, guys. You're drinking water and showing alcohol bottles for CYA cancel culture deniability. I always am reluctant to admit to it. Drink alcohol and like do it on live chats. I feel almost nervous. We've got head jobs. If a startup pierces the corporate veil by failing tax on time or filing annual Delaware Inc., can corporate protections be restored to full integrity?
That sounds like a legal question.
Okay, that's a very precise corporate law question.
Head job. Thank you very much.
Delaware specific law, for example, because again, corporations are state specific, so you have to look to Delaware specific corporate law when it comes to corporate veil and piercing of it. But generally, when you pierce in the corporate veil, it's only for a specific thing, not for all things. All that general proposition.
Contact an attorney in the proper jurisdiction. Which is Delaware. But now this is the funny thing, because like you talk about the SLAPP statute is intended to protect freedom of speech by penalizing lawsuits that would offend freedom of speech. As far as I'm concerned, I regard a lawsuit as an extension of freedom of speech, and by prohibiting someone's right to file a lawsuit, the SLAPP statute is itself penalizing free speech, which is I want to exercise my freedom of speech by pursuing something before the courts. It's almost paradoxical. Okay. In my rant.
I mean, that's a valid policy perspective, and not every state has a SLAPP, anti-SLAPP.
Yeah.
And not every state that has one has gone as far as others. So it's an issue of legitimate policy debate. So
so Vic's lawsuit was dismissed
yes, under TCPA, yeah.
after depositions, because I know Riccietta was going through the depositions, and he had hours of live stream on the depositions.
I don't know what depositions were done before the discovery shield went in place, because TCPA, this again is Texas specific. I'll know more about it soon when I become a Texas lawyer. But TCPA puts in a discovery shield, which prevents some discovery from occurring. But he might have had, I think he had, may get this wrong, but he had some, and they might have been unsworn affidavits. But he had some affidavits which were attached to the original complaint. The original complaint was killed because it was improperly notarized, as I understand it, and I could be mistaken here, but as I understand it, by the attorney who notarized it when he wasn't supposed to. So that didn't work. So all those all the evidence that was attached was killed. He tried to file a second amended complaint, which was denied because of the time period. So all the evidence attached to that died. So I'm not sure any of those depositions are actually on the record. Well, so there might have been some depositions that occurred, but I don't think they're on the record.
Apparently, my understanding is that there was no gag order in effect for the depositions, and therefore they were free to be publicly disclosed. Whether or not I agree with that explanation,
yeah, they were attached. They were attached to the original filing, so they're court filing. But whether or not they're being filed and being on the record are not the same thing.
That's what.
Yes, they were filed.
That's
are
true.
They on the
Yeah,
record? I don't think they're on the record. I don't think it's part of the record of the case.
Oh wow,
Nate! People want to hear you talk. What are we going to ask you here?
I don't know. I'm learning about the Vic case too. I'm just thinking it's fascinating. I'm listening to the back and forth. I think it's interesting.
The Vic case was crazy because there are tens of thousands of people who are in the field of like anime, and when Riccietta was doing it, I mean, he was holding live streams on the subject, and there were 30,000 people watching the live stream. It was crazy, and
wow.
and I remember some questions I was asking him because they were going over depositions that were not filed yet, and my question was how does that happen? But anyways, I'll say it's a phenomenally interesting case. I might do a cursory overview of it now, but I still feel like I'm so far behind the ball on that I'm better off just leaving it to the people who have been involved in it from the beginning. But Mike Lombardo says, yeah, the depots are absolutely a part of the court record. Okay, that's good to know. If it's true.
This is an issue where the Vic people who are following this think it is, and they might be right because they've been following the case way closer than I have.
Well, yeah.
So they might be right, but I'm a little bit more dubious based on my limited understanding.
So, okay, we got Mike Lombardo says, if you read the September 6th, see, this is the problem. Like, trying to catch up on a file like this, where we would be discussing with people who have this level knowledge of experience in the file. If you read the September 6th hearing transcript, it's pretty obvious the judge messed up pretty bad. I do not agree. I do believe he will win the appeal.
I don't agree. I did read the transcript. In fact, I live streamed the transcript and my reaction to the transcript. I do not agree that the judge messed up the hearing. It seemed to me, at least in my humble opinion, that Nick's lawyer did not know what he was arguing. He didn't have it together. He didn't know what contracts he was talking about. There were several points where he gave very vague answers, and I just saw the judge getting increasingly frustrated with him. And I don't agree that Judge flubbed. From what I read, it seemed more that the attorney for Vic flubbed it, not the judge.
Now,
that's my view, though.
Any criminal charges against Vic or nothing? Criminal, civil lawsuits by the alleged victims?
Not as far as I'm aware, no.
Okay, interesting. Now, okay.
No, I wasn't at the courthouse, August. No, I wasn't there in person. I did read the transcript, though, so maybe it seemed better. Maybe it seemed different, because it seemed different maybe when you were there. It could be. But yeah, no, I don't know. I wasn't there in person. I just read the transcript. So